All right, good morning, everybody. Of course, my name is Victor Jaramillo. I am the crew supervisor this year for the River Source YCC program. Of course, I replaced Mr. Eddie Campos back there as the science teacher almost 28 years ago. And so it's a pleasure, of course, to be here and representing our school, representing these kids that worked so hard this year. They were an excellent group. We've been working with River Source and the Forest Service probably over the last 4 or 5 years, doing some environmental research, implementing some corrective actions. Mr. Luis Pena on his property, Ms. Renee Pena on her property, and just trying to build an awareness for the youth to have to protect our natural resources. You know, we had some things happen this summer, and one of the things I think that's most important is for everybody that's here to understand that this group of kids, they're priceless, right? Part of the problems that we're experiencing within our community is that there's a lot of uneducated people that are looking at things and doing things that are still very adverse, right? And so I think that what we did, you know, Carlos, and I'll introduce Carlos here in a bit, Mr. Rich Schrader, who's not here today, is that we have come up with the idea, or we've come to realize, should I say, that we need to start with the youth to try to educate our community to try to turn some of this stuff around. You know, there are procedures, there are actions that are being done in the forest that people just don't seem to understand that it's a backwards way of thinking. We're trying to turn that around, right? And it's really hard to take that and take it out to the community and tell some of these older guys, you know, you need to quit doing this, you need to stop, you need to think about things, because they don't. I mean, they're really stuck in their old ways. Okay, so it's the youth, you know, ever since graduation, I've been stuck on this little phrase that, you know, youth is king. You know, they're our future, right? So these guys are the future of protecting our environment, protecting our local resources. You know, they got out this year, and when we started, it was kind of like, but towards the end, they started realizing, oh my God, look at this. You know, Sonny will talk about it during his presentation, you know, some of the stuff that we experienced. So like I say, this whole entire group, their efforts, their responsibilities, what they did, it's priceless. And I want to thank them for all their hard work, okay? Of course, my crew this year was Sonny Lucero, Aaron Lucero, Karina Terrazas, Elka Graves, and Dylan Pena, who could not be here, okay? And so it was really funny because in talking with some people, I even tell them that, oh, and back there, Damien Valdez, you need to sit over here where I can see you, dude. Now I lost my train of thought. You know, in talking with some of the people this year, it's like I said, to turn everything around, it's really tough. Okay, I'd like to thank, of course, Miss Angie Kroll, the district ranger, Miss Jennifer Sublet, I was going to say Charlotte Sublet, who's the rec tech, Mr. Carlos Herrera, an official from River Source, Mr. Rich Schrader, who cannot be with us here today. He's actually out with Petros, the Petros crew, and they provided these guys an opportunity to not only study the environment, but make some really good money. You know, it's a paid internship. Some of them, like, right, Aaron, Elka, Damien, and Sonny have all been with this program before. Karina was brand new. And so when she stepped on this summer, we were kind of wondering where Karina was going to go with it and how she was going to respond. And she turned out to be, I mean, a heavy duty worker. You know, for her weighing about 90 pounds, you got to see this girl swing a sledgehammer and a pickaxe and all that kinds of good stuff, you know. So without any further comments, I guess, and I'll speak as we go along. Like I say, I'd like to introduce Mr. Carlos Herrera, just speak a little bit on behalf of River Source, and then we'll roll with their presentations. If anybody needs at any one point in time to get a drink, drinks are here, restrooms are there. And if you have any questions, comments, just let me know and we'll.
All right, guys. Well, I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming. This is a very exciting opportunity for us to hear a lot of the work that these students did over the summer. And I shouldn't say students now, they're interns, you know, as they engaged in becoming or taking part in this internship, you know, they became professionals in this field, not necessarily in professionals that they're going to be the ones that can go out there and necessarily do this themselves, but in the fact that they were getting paid in order to do some amazing work, not for us from Santa Fe, River Source from Santa Fe, but for the communities of El Rito, Servieta, and even here around the school. So we're very excited for them to present here today as, I guess, the final step in their journey through what is known as the Watershed Academy. So I think we'll probably do a short wrap up with you guys afterwards, but I think that this is definitely their time in order to shine. So without further ado, I think I'd like to introduce Aaron Lucero, who's going to present first. And just please be aware, you guys are being broadcast to 3 different YCC crews in Peñasco, Santa Fe, and Pecos right now. So there are multiple crews that are watching their presentation, because this is the first presentation of 5 that will be happening. So, but again, a lot of this would not be able to happen without your all support. So thank you all being here to be able to see their presentation today. So thank you guys.
All right, so today I'll be talking about the importance of wildlife management. Hi, I'm Aaron Lucero. I'm going to be a junior, and I live in El Rito. I like to go hunting, fishing, camping, hiking. And during this internship, I'm most focused on wildlife management. We have removed some invasive species like crayfish, and we've been trying to protect and control our environment so our wildlife can thrive in the campgrounds. And in the campgrounds, we have animals like elk, mule deer, black bears, grouse, turkey, and other animals like mountain lions too. The Department of Game and Fish release a proclamation every year that gives out information about wildlife management and the wildlife information out to the public. Hunting is the most common wildlife management. All hunters must possess a valid license and permit, and all hunters or anglers on any Forest Service or BLM land must possess a habitat stamp. The funds that come from a habitat stamp is used to protect and enhance wildlife habitat on public land throughout New Mexico. In the state of New Mexico, we have some invasive species like crayfish, feral hogs, moose, and brook trout. Feral hogs are not protected in New Mexico, and anyone can hunt them without a license. Feral hogs can damage habitat, pollute water, and they compete with native species. Moose have started to migrate into New Mexico, and so far they aren't protected. This picture right here is of a deer that's stuck in El Rito that's going up towards the campgrounds. And the fence was built to keep out elk and deer from entering the field. And the deer was attempting to cross the fence, but its leg got stuck and it couldn't get out, and nobody helped to get out. So it just died there. And fences are a source of wildlife management because farmers need to keep out the wildlife from entering their field to protect their crops. Fish hatcheries manage the amount of fish that are in waters throughout New Mexico. Fish hatcheries are used to raise population of threatened, endangered, or at-risk species in a safe captive environment so they can eventually get released into a natural setting. In the Rito campgrounds, there are pure Rio Grande cutthroat and cutbow trout. Wildlife that are managed are mammals, fish, birds, amphibians, and reptiles. Here in New Mexico, we have a problem with poachers. Poachers are people who go out without a license and kill animals illegally. Poachers cause a major problem with managing species because the Department of Game and Fish won't know the population of species that are being poached, and they can't determine the amount of hunting licenses to give out to the public. We found this elk hide right here on the side of the road in the campgrounds, and we think that someone either like they poached it and they left the hide, or it was a hunter that left the hide on the road. Trapping is also a type of wildlife management because people can trap animals in certain areas, so there isn't overpopulation. People who trap use the fur from the animals to make clothes, or they can also be sold. Trappers also trap for their personal safety, their land safety, and for meat. We have trapped some crayfish during this internship also. As you see right here, we trapped these in Luis Peña's property. Throughout this internship, we saw some evidence from different animals such as turkey, elk, mule deer, grouse, lizards, snakes, cutthroat trout, smallmouth bass, carp, perch, and some other benthic vertebrates and insects. Right here, we have a picture of a benthic invertebrate. It's called a case caddisfly. During this internship, we did some wildlife management by removing crayfish. Crayfish are invasive in New Mexico because they hunt and kill the minnows that are in the rivers. Minnows are very helpful in the river because they're food for bigger fish and other animals. We tested the quality in the Rito campground so we can determine if the river is healthy to support fish, because fish are very sensitive and it is important to know the quality of the water. The fish need a pH of 6.5 to 8 to be able to survive. Water quality is an important resource of wildlife management, and in the campgrounds, whenever we tested it, it had some good quality to support fish life. When we were working, we caught some animals like minnows and lizards. The lizards we caught were called the great checkered whiptail lizards. We saw lizards all throughout the campgrounds, especially when there was a lot of rocks. Elko always said, wherever there's lizards, there's snakes, but we never saw snakes. I really enjoyed this internship, and I would like to thank Rich, Carlos, Anna, Hara, Miss Pena, Luis, Angie Craw, the New Mexico YCC, and the U.S. Forest Service. And then I would like to ask everyone here a question. Since moose are migrating down to New Mexico, do you think the moose should be protected or like eliminated since they're gonna start competing with native species like elk or deer that have been in New Mexico for years?
Keep them out, keep them out.
We got a hunter up there. Should we protect the moose or should we eliminate the moose?
I will say what I've seen when they've expanded their territory, they can really impact riparian areas, even more than cows, and they don't have a natural predator, and they go for certain willows. So unless managed correctly, it can cause some real damage.
Well, in our discussions during the internship, they are not listed as a huntable species in the proclamation. So there is no application
In
for
New
them.
Mexico.
There's no license for them. So right now they're considered invasive, which means that you don't need a license or a hunting period over one time to be able to eliminate these things. Now, when they saw the moose in Santa Fe, right? If you go out and you take out a moose in Santa Fe at the ski base, some flashbacks. So it's an interesting question, and it's something that's going to have to be managed. So I think that, yeah. Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, and then who's next? Is it you, Sonny?
Congratulations.
All right, so Sonny's coming up with his presentation, so. right, Sunny?
Yeah. Campground management. I'm going to share my personal experience and opinions working with the YCC River Source internship. My name is Sonny Lucero. I'm 15 years old and I live in Ojo Caliente, New Mexico. I'm a soon-to-be sophomore, and because of this is my second year working with the River Source. Because of this internship, I feel that ever since I first started working with River Source, I've had a very strong interest and connection to our community's land and environment. This internship has really showed me all the small and simple things we can do to make a huge difference in our communities. During this internship, I focused mainly on the work we completed at the El Rito campgrounds. While we worked at the El Rito campgrounds, we used an app called Survey 123. This app allowed us to take photos and pinpoint a number of various different hazards that we then marked later on focused on correcting. The app marks all the points on a map so then we could see what and where we surveyed. Showed right here is a map of all the surveys we did at the El Rito campground. As an intern, we weren't only working with River Source at the campgrounds, but we're also working together and helping out the El Rito Forest Service. Working at the campgrounds was a lot of hard work, but I believe it was totally worth it to improve the environment for not only the community, but for everyone visiting the campgrounds. Some of the projects we did was test water quality and stream flow. On Wednesday, June 7th, we tested the water quality at 3 different campground sites. The sites were Rio de Jorqueta, La Jara, and the Mesa Vista campsite. All of our tests proved that the river was healthy and safe stream flow. Part of testing the stream involves us taking a look at some aquatic invertebrates. Specific invertebrates indicate a healthy stream flow. The very sensitive insects are a sign of a healthy stream flow because they can't handle high levels of pollution. This is our group surveying aquatic invertebrates. These are sensitive invertebrates. There are mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, and gilt snails. These are somewhat sensitive to pollution. This is an alderfly, a hellgrammite, riffle beetles, crayfish, dragonflies, and these invertebrates are tolerant to pollution. Midges, horseflies, black flies, aquatic worms, leeches, and lunch snails. Another very important project we did working at the campgrounds were managing erosion. Erosion occurs when dirt or soil is exposed to strong winds, hard rain, and flowing water. In some cases, human activity, especially farming and land clearing, leaves soil vulnerable to erosion. A method we used to manage the erosion was building rock structures to slow down and redirect the water. These are the rock structures we built. We built 1 rock dams and rock rundowns, but there are many more structures. These are some rock dams we built and rock rundowns. That's a 1 rock dam. That's a rock rundown. These are some more erosion control structures. 1 rock dams, Zuni Bowl, Media Luna, and rock rundowns. Another project we did at the campgrounds was block off ATV trails with rocks and debris. We also removed, cleaned, and rebuilt many fire rings, and even dug a ditch to drain out flooded roads. But one of the hardest jobs we did working at the campgrounds was setting up signs of many different campsite names. Setting up these signs were for safety reasons because if there were to be an accident, it would be easy to identify the location for emergency services. Setting up these signs weren't as easy as it sounds. We were working in extreme temperatures and dug holes around 3 to 4 feet deep. This is some images of us putting up signs, blocking off ATV trails. Sadly, all of the hard work that went to waste because not even a week later after putting up the sign, someone decided to go and shoot at the sign as shown in this image. I felt that that was very disrespectful because those are brand new signs and they were there for important reasons. They're there for our safety and to inform campers to help keep the environment clean. So here's the sign with bullet holes found in it. Overall, my experience with RiverSource was great, and I would definitely recommend it to many others or people that are interested in land management. I had a great time working with RiverSource, and I got really close to the other interns. I also want to give a huge thank you to Victor Aramillo, Rich Strader, Carlos Herrera, Ana Archuleta, Angie Crawl, Luis Pena, Renee Pena, the U.S. Forest Service, and the New Mexico YCC. It was really an honor to have a second opportunity working with RiverSource. This was a great experience, and I really learned a lot. I feel the things we did can and will have a huge and positive impact on our community's future and environment. Thank you all for your time.
Damien's next. Where'd he go?
Okay, we got Damien Valdez coming up here really quick.
In
So
our efforts in working in the El Rito campgrounds, it was pretty interesting because there's so much more work that can be done. I don't think that we could have, entirely finished all of our projects. But, some of the stuff that we encountered, we would close roads, and over the weekend, we would find that people would just move that debris and just continue on. And so, corrective actions are going to be much more. I know that Angie and the Forest Service have some plans to bring in some big boulders and create some barriers that are going to be more appropriate. But with their survey 1, 2, 3, they were able to identify that stuff, and we'll be presenting that information, through Rich to Angie for these guys to identify areas that.
all right, so Damien.
I'm just waiting to report.
Oh, you need your,
Yeah.
the controller's there too, but yours is this one here.
Okay.
I'm gonna refresh it real fast too to make sure if you made any changes, you got the rest. There you go.
All right. Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Damien Valdez. I live in Ojo Caliente, New Mexico, and I will be a junior next year at Mexico High School. And today I will be talking, and I really enjoyed this internship. Gave me opportunities to do a lot of stuff, like working outdoors or just working with my hands. And over the course of the internship, we did a lot of things, but today I'll be talking about water quality, as water quality is very important to us, and it can affect the plant life, the aquatic life, just the types of insects that will be in the water, even us within our communities, as everybody uses water. So it is our job to keep it clean and keep it clean. There are a few different ways that we check for water quality. In this picture below, that you'll see some of the different equipment that we use. And the things we'll usually test for are pH, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, nitrates, and phosphates. pH measures the acids and bases in the water on a scale from 0 to 14, and 7 being neutral. Over at the campground, there was a range of 8.1 to 8.5 pH, which is suitable for fish to live in the water. Dissolved oxygen is the measurement of oxygen that's dissolved within the water. And over at the campgrounds, we had found a measurement of 6.6 parts per million to 7.0 parts per million, which is suitable for fish to survive, because fish need at least 6.0 parts per million. And turbidity is the cloudiness of water. That basically means kind of like all the debris and dirt that's floating around inside the water, how clear it is. And over at the campgrounds, we had found a range from 12 to 38.5. Nitrates are organic pollution in the water. For example of this could be fertilizers or livestock waste. The nitrate levels we found in the campgrounds range from 0.0 to 0.10. Phosphates are chemical pollution, and chemical pollution can be caused by many different things, such as just dumping trash or just dumping our drinks into the water. Other things that can cause it are just driving the vehicles through the water. And the phosphate levels we found over in the campgrounds are range from 0.10 to 0.24. In this picture, you can see us measuring stream flow. And the way we measure stream flow is by getting how wide the stream is, how deep it is, and how fast it's flowing. And doing so within a certain range of the thing, you'll kind of average it all out to have a general idea how the water is flowing throughout the whole stream. On June 23rd, we measured 10 cubic feet per second stream flow, which is moving way faster, well above the standard flow rate of 2 cubic feet per second. And right here, you can just see some of the data sheets that we collected data on. So this was over at the group shelter, the gazebo area and the campgrounds. And the water temperature was 13 degrees Celsius, 14 and 15. So it was going up throughout the day. And then the TDS was 53, 58, 61, and 54. And turbidity was 6.73 to 6.79. It was ranging up and down as we took different tests. The HA levels were 6.8 to, and the highest being 14.0. Dissolved oxygen was 5.5 at the highest being 6. And then the total phosphate levels were 0.16 at the highest being 0.33. And then in this next slide, use the mouse, is just over at Abiquiu Lake. And like one of the main concerns is that over Abiquiu Lake, the water was reading about 20 degrees Celsius. And then so that can just be like the water is getting very hot. So that can just like leave room for algae and different things to grow within the water. And then right here is just a list of some of the different aquatic insects that we had found within the lake. And some of those were mayflies, caddisflies, bobfly, as well as cell bugs, aquatic mites, shoe bugs, and black flies, and aquatic worms. And then here's just another data sheet just showing some different data we collected at different area of the campgrounds. And then right here in this picture, you can see just some of the different bugs that we had found within the water over, I believe it was next to the Message campground, right? Yeah. So this was just kind of like, as you can see some of the different bugs we've seen. And the different bugs you find in the water can tell you how good the water is too. Because certain bugs, some bugs need certain conditions to survive. So some of the bugs, so the bugs you want in the water are the bugs that are more sensitive to pollution and whatnot, because if you see those in there, I mean, that's how you know the water is good. And then here's just another, and then here in this poster, it's just showing the good bugs and the sensitive bugs you want to have in the water. And then I would like to thank RiverSource, the RiverSource staff, Rich Schrader, Carlos Tejeda, and Ana Archuleta for giving us an opportunity to work, as well as Victor Jaramillo for recommending this internship to us. I would also like to thank the Forest Service, Renee Pena, Luis Pena, and all of those who helped support us throughout this experience, as I have learned a lot of different skills that I can use later in the future. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to work with the FirstSource again, and it is really fun. It is really fun, and I'd really recommend it to other people who would like to do it in the future. So thank you. I conclude my presentation.
Hi, my name is Karina Terrazas. I'm from Ojo Caliente, and I'm going to be a sophomore this year. Today, I'm here to talk about erosion control. My connection with the environment is that I grew up liking the outdoors and going camping. One thing I've begun to see is that soil erosion in the mountains and at campsites has become extreme. Some erosion is natural, while some is caused by humans. Many of the campsites have extreme erosion to the point where you can't even drive in. There's also signs of illegal roads being established by ATVs and other off-road vehicles. So what is erosion? Erosion is the geological process in which earthen materials are worn away and transported by forces such as wind or water. As I mentioned before, some erosion is natural and some is caused by humans. An example of erosion caused by humans is when people drive through a certain place too much and it causes a hole or puddle to form. The pictures below are from a Rito campground. As you can see, the erosion is so bad here that you can't even drive in. With all the rain that had fallen that week, the hole filled with water. With all the water in there, it will be hard to drain. One example of natural erosion is when it rains, the water creates its own runoff path. This is Ojito Cedro. The spring causes natural erosion. Water from the spring runs off to the side of the road and creates a runoff path. Rito Cerro is a natural spring that runs all year long. While working in this internship, we use different methods to fix erosion problems. Some of the methods we use consist of one rock dams, media lunas, and a French drain. A one rock dam is a line of rocks where the water flows. This slows down rushing water and will also give the water time to sink into the soil. These dams will also help trap seeds of native plants and grasses and allow them to grow. The media luna is used to manipulate sheet flow in various ways to prevent erosion. A French drain is a trench dug in the ground, then filled with rocks or gravel. French drain systems work because gravity causes the water to go downhill, and water will always follow the path of least resistance, so it is naturally drawn down through the gravel, where the water flows on a downward slope. The gazebo at the campground was getting muddy because of the slope. When it rained, the water goes towards the gazebo, and when people try to back up and unpack their stuff, it creates ruts. So we dug a French trench to divert the water to the sides. There's Dylan and Carlos putting gravel into the trench. And then there's Alka and Hara digging the trench.
Gotta show them the picture of you digging.
There,
There we are.
And then there's Dylan and Aaron shoveling gravel. And then there's Damien spreading the gravel out. This week on Monday, we went up to Abbey Q and started to work on an erosion project in the pueblo. There was erosion from the water, so we started to spread the seeds of native grasses so they could grow and root in the ground. By doing this, it makes the ground more stable. The reason we did that was because artifacts were being washed away in the bare areas of land. After we spread the seed, we started to haul straw up the hill. On Tuesday, we went back to hauling hay up the hill. After we got it to a certain point, we started to spread the straw where we put the seed. The straw had to be at least 1.5 inches or 2 inches to give the seed shape to grow. If it were any more than that, it would have gotten too much shade and not been able to grow. This is a picture of alcohol and hay up the hill.
and that's at the
And then-
Pueblo, right?
Yeah.
That's for sure. Good pueblo.
And then there's Aaron. And this is a seed we're using. It's called grandma seed. And then there's Alpha spreading seed. And then this is a picture of erosion in Rito. During this internship, I focused on the erosion and the Rito campgrounds. I think this is a great experience and encourage others to join. One thing I enjoyed most was talking with my friends. During this internship, I met and worked with new people. We got to meet and get involved with the Forest Service to help the Rito campgrounds. While we were there, we closed roads using slash and rocks, put up signs for campgrounds, and put signs on the roads we closed so that people wouldn't try and use the roads. While at the campgrounds, we did water testing and found that the water was pretty healthy. We did tests in multiple locations, and everywhere we checked, the water was healthy. Even though some of the banks were eroding, the water was still healthy. I would like to say thanks to RiverSource for giving me this opportunity. I would also like to thank Rich Trader, Carlos Herrera, Ana Archuleta, Peter Jaramillo, Ms. Pena, Luis Pena, YCC, Andrew Crawl, and the Forest Service. This is a great experience that I would like to do again. That concludes our presentation. And as that's a picture of alcohol I took. I took the picture. I remembered it looked like the guy from the Goonies on that says, "Hey, guy." So yeah.
Let me refresh yours too. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elka Graves. I am from Tres Piedras, and I'm an upcoming senior. This will be my second year with RiverSource, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. My presentation will be about invasive and troublesome weeds. Some reasons that I like doing these internships is because they deal with the outdoors, which I am very familiar with. My family owns a firewood and logging company, and I've been a part of it since I was little. The firewood company helps manage the forest in many ways, and as I've helped my family, I've learned about the different types of vegetation in our local systems. This includes the invasive and troublesome weeds that can outcompete with the young saplings and later be used for wood harvest and lumber production. Before I discuss invasive and troublesome weeds encountered during this internship, I would like to discuss some others that exist throughout New Mexico. So this photo is of me testing the water and for dissolved oxygen. Invasives emerge earlier and stay longer due to extended growing seasons. Climate extremes create new opportunities for invasion. Herbicides are less effective with higher atmospheric CO2. Invasives shift their ranges into new ecosystems with warming. Invasives become more competitive with warming and higher atmospheric CO2. Invasives are introduced through new pathways due to sea ice melt. This photo is bull thistle that was in Luis Peña's land. The bull thistle that is seen in this photo was right next to the ditch. Bull thistle infests disturbed areas such as ditches, roadsides, streams, and fences. Bull thistle is also known as burr thistle, common thistle, and spear thistle. The reproduction of the bull thistle can spread through seed, but if you manage it right, it can stop the spread. Me and my crew had trouble identifying the thistle because it looks a lot like the Canadian thistle. So on the left is Canadian thistle, and on the right is bull thistle. Kind of a difference. This is cheatgrass. Cheatgrass is an annual grass that infests disturbed areas such as roadsides, open fields, and ditches, as well as crop fields, range fields, lands, grasslands, and desert areas. Cheatgrass is also known as downy or drooping brome, military grass, June grass, and bronco grass. Now, some ways to manage cheatgrass is by maintaining a healthy plant community, and that would be the best management methods. Now, some other ways would be to burn before seed dispersal and mowing within a week after flowering, and that will reduce seed production / spread. I've seen a lot of cheatgrass where I live and everywhere in New Mexico. Hoary crest. That's what it looks like. Hoary crest is seen through most of the state of New Mexico. Perennial infests moist areas such as irrigated pastures, rangelands, hayfields, and other crop fields. It also infests disturbed sites such as roadsides, railways, and ditches. 3 species occur in New Mexico: lens-spotted hoarycrest, heart-spotted, and globe-spotted hoarycrest. That is most common. I've seen hoarycrest where I live too because it's common. So this is a photo of the crew in Abiquiu. My crew's not in it except me, Ada, and Dylan, and Damien, and Rich. And the Las Vegas crew isn't in it either. This is the reestablished rock ring in the Rito campground. This is a photo of crew members after a long work day. So, this is a photo of me spreading the seed in Abiquiu. This is a photo of me and Karina taking out the thistle. My experience with this internship that I did this summer was great because I got to meet a lot of new people, and it will bring me lots of opportunities in my future, like being a part of the Forest Service. I learned to be a hard worker, and all while having a little bit of fun. Some other things that I learned to do was some public speaking with children and adults in the Alvito camp. In the Alvito campgrounds, people asked us a lot of questions on what we were doing, and we said we were closing off roads that are eroded and are ruining the land. Some things that we did in Alvito were remove invasive plants, remove fire rings, remove tables that were no longer usable. We then did some erosion control in Sabieta and fixed a fire ring and removed invasive weeds. After that, we started reseeding in Abiquiu, where we took straw bales up the mountain. The reason we reseeded in Abiquiu was to fix erosion that was happening in the Pueblo. One thing that made it a bit easier for us to get the straw up the mountain was we made a snake line with everyone, and it made it faster. Something that motivates me to protect our land is seeing the erosion on the campground and knowing I can fix it for future generations. After watching the Nusenda presentation, I like to spend my money smarter because I will be having to go to college in a year. So instead of going and spending my money on something I don't need and is a want, I will be spending my money on new pants that aren't expensive and are worth my money. I would like to thank RiverSource for helping me in understanding water quality and invasive weeds and what they do to the land, and for giving me this opportunity. I would also like to thank Rich Schrader, Carlos Herrera, Victor Jaramillo, the Forest Service, Angie Krell, Ana Archuleta, YCC, Luis Pena, and Renee Pena. This internship was a good internship, and I would recommend anyone interested in doing things outdoors to do this next year. And then I have a video.
Pulling on a picnic table.
There we go.
Me too. We were there just. There's scorpions. Oh no. Did you see my cactus? There was a cactus. It's about 105 degrees out here.
Only about 90.
We don't have any water.
So why don't you guys all stand up? So you guys, we had a very amazing crew here this year. You know, we had a lot of members that were very instrumental in us being able to do this YCC crew. You know, without these students, we couldn't accomplish that. Without the support from our community, from the parents, from Hada. You know, Hada did a lot of work in order to make this happen, you know. I, as well as my crew, you know, had sleepless nights when we prepared to make sure that these guys had work to do. You know, one of the things that we found was that they worked so hard to elicit the Forest Service finish that we thought would last 4 weeks. They were done in 2, so we had to ask them for more work to do. So they were very hard workers. They did a really great job, and I'd like to thank them for all of their hard work as well. So does anybody have any questions for the interns?
But before you go, one of the things I think is very notable that should be mentioned is that, like Carlos was saying, and some of the kids have said, they've been maybe second-year interns, right? And because of their performance and some of the things that they've been able to accomplish, we actually have 2 that were able to, that qualified and actually did some environmental research for the Bandit Peak Ranch in Como, Colorado last year. And that was Elka and Aaron. They spent a solid week out there last year. And we did some bat surveys, we did some water quality stuff, we did some soil sampling and what have you. So, you know, they're starting to develop not only an understanding of the environment, but professionalism. You know, they can add this to their resume. And so now they go out, and like I say, they were able to submit this stuff. They were selected, and they were able to go out with the stuff that they've learned to go out and do research out of state. So it's very notable. They did a really good job. So good job, guys.
All right, guys. So with that, our audience, we do have a question in the back.
So you guys mentioned the One Rock wall.
One Rock Dam.
Yeah, why is it called that?
Why is it called the One Rock Dam, you guys?
It's only 1 rock high, and it's just to stop the water, slow down the water, not to stop it.
Okay, yep. So 1 rock high and to slow down the water. Any other quick questions?
And-
Okay.
I was going to say, actually, last year on Miss Pena's land and Mr. Luis Pena's property, we built some one rock dams to correct erosion. And this year that we reevaluated and reassessed it, it's doing what it's supposed to. And I think that Mr. Luis Pena can attest to that. So.
Okay.
Spending some time on you guys' skills, very thankful that devices and the river source. It's been interesting having you guys out there pointing out stuff. Some of it I knew, some of it I didn't know. And it's interesting to watch you guys develop your scientific.
It's getting back to country.
Conservation is such an important skill that's required in our community. As you guys see, people are out there, they're on sites, they're tearing up stuff with the razors, and in addition to that, we have environmental threats that are impacting us. A lot of our elders who carry a lot of this knowledge to pass it on, some of that information is going with them. So I'm glad you guys are out there. I think we're trying to learn these skills and teach other people. We have some stuff coming down the pipe. We have a beautification of the river stream, which impacts those us. And that just means less water. And so conservation is how we're going to be able to address this. And you guys know, for every problem, there's a solution. For every bad situation that has been happening to us, there's a way that we can turn it around. You know, I applaud your guys' efforts. The presentation was awesome.
Great, guys. Well, with that, I think I'd like to conclude the presentation for the watershed. Oh, Angie's got a quick question.
Well, not a question. I really, I always get so joked up about this. You guys are awesome. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And Jennifer Sublet, who's just a great new asset to our team, and Rito and the Western person. And I see you as our future. We need the new up and comers to join our ranks to do this work. And, these are great paying jobs that we have, and they're local, and, you can stay in the communities by coming in to work for us. So hope you consider that down the road. Continue with your education and your curiosity and your learning. And please stay with it. Again, thank you. And thank you, Hada. Thank you, Carlos and Rich, for all the hard work just organizing it all. I know how hard that can be. And thank you, parents and supporters, for your support.
Okay, and then we do have a bunch of other crews, high crews out there in the Zoom land. We've got 3 other crews that are operating: Santa Fe, Peñasco. Shout out to you guys, to everybody. Then don't forget Pecos, you guys out there. Pecos will be presenting in a little bit, so they left you guys some big shoes to fill. So do a good job when you guys do it. So we'd like to also invite you all to stay, have a bite to eat with us, stay and visit with the crew, ask them some more questions, because you see that they got a lot more answers right now. So, but thank you all very much, and we'll see the rest of you guys in the next presentation. So thank you guys very much. We're going to go ahead and sign off.